of Chief Sloly or former Chief Sloly, saying he doesn't believe that there's a policing solution, or there may not be a policing solution. I take it you're familiar with that, with him saying that?
Yeah.
And so as somebody who was on the ground and sort of witnessing what was going on very close hand from the OPP, did you share that assessment of the situation at that time?
I did not.
Okay. Why not?
Based on my experience, I guess, is the best example. I hadn't, even up to this point, I'd already heard about issues integrating PLT into this process. And all the blockades I've been involved in, I've seen nothing but success from our PLT team. They're an amazingly dedicated group of individuals who are able to establish relationships with protesters, and able to start discussions about, okay, why are you here? What are you protesting? How long do you plan to be here? Can we help you with an exit strategy? They're obviously trained in the framework that's been adopted by the Canadian Association of Police Chiefs, which I think the Commission has heard about already. And they've done amazing work to be able to resolve a lot of situations without having to use POU, just through negotiation and discussions and allowing groups, whatever they happen to be, exit on their own, and without having to have police enforcement. Now, we've had to use police enforcement at times, for sure, but I did not see that piece being used in this situation. I didn't see intelligence being used to lead a solution. I didn't see PLT being used to lead a solution. So that's why I felt maybe he was being a little premature. I didn't see that all these steps have been tried yet. I guess if all those steps have been tried and every tool in our toolbox have been used and we're still at ground zero, maybe you could think about that in that way, but I just didn't think that we'd used all our tools yet, so I couldn't agree with that statement.
Okay. Based on those reports in the week leading up to the convoy?
I certainly, based on the reports, saw many different views of what might happen in Ottawa. We saw social media reports that said there might be 34,000 vehicles that arrive in Ottawa. We saw other reports that might be only in the hundreds. I think as recently as January 24th Hendon report, one of the intelligence gaps that's indicated on the report says unknown exact number of vehicles that will be attending Ottawa. So even as late as the 24th, we weren't 100% sure on numbers. So we had an intense range from social media saying 30,000, 32,000 to in the hundreds. They spoke about their event and they spoke about their plans to manage the convoy vehicles that were traveling to their city.
Okay, and what were the plans that were shared on that call?
There was no written plan shared on the call. It was all verbal. They indicated that they had a plan and had a capacity to accept 3,000 vehicles in their city. And then they set about describing on what streets those vehicles would park in. They had, Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway, X number of vehicles could park there. Wellington Street, X number of vehicles could park there. They spoke about how the convoy leaders agreed to only take 3 of 4 lanes on Wellington Street and leave 1 lane open for emergency vehicles. Other vehicles would take up side streets off of Wellington and keep the curb lane open for emergency vehicles. That's how they described their interactions with the convoy leaders.
And prior to this call, were you aware that the OPS was planning to allow the trucks into downtown Ottawa?
This was the first I'd heard about how Ottawa planned to deal with the vehicles that were traveling into their city.
Okay, and did you have any concerns about that proposal?
I didn't. As much as I'd seen Hendon reports, like we've heard evidence here that obviously motivated individuals traveling from East Coast and West Coast, very well funded, indications that they may spend multiple days. Some Hendon reports said 3 days, but certainly it looked like multiple days.
Chief Sloly expects all policing partners will engage in arrests for aiding and abetting the offense of mischief, and if they refuse, then he will call that police service's senior management to ensure they do.
He was expecting all officers, regardless of who they work for, to effect mischief arrests for members who were believed to be carrying gasoline.
And so when when you've written down all policing partners, that includes the RCMP, the OPP, any other municipal agencies that were there participating?
When he says all policing partners, I got to believe he means all policing partners, and that's who was there.
Okay. Did you have a view on either of these two operational plans?
I had a view on both, yes. I didn't agree with either for various reasons. I didn't see a plan for dynamic arrests that were supposed to happen within the next couple of days. And then basically what he's describing in number 2 are snatch and grabs off the street, which we're normally not associated with. And again, he doesn't speak about time of day. And again, he speaks about involving PLT in them. How are PLT engaged in snatch and grabs? And it's, from my experience, that's not what OPP PLT are involved in. So I certainly right away had concerns for both of those. And in our conversation, I'd understood that even some of the Ottawa police detectives were uncertain about their legal authorities to do what they were doing. You know, could they seize the trucks? Could they seize the gas? Could they lay the charges? You know, where are you getting this authority? I'm assuming you've consulted the Crown Attorney. What has the Crown Attorney told you about this? You know, what has the Crown Attorney told you about your authorities? Do you have a Crown opinion letter that I could have? Because until and if I see that letter, I'm not directing my OPP members to be engaged in this type of activity until I can be certain that the Crown Attorney supports it. Once again, my role as strategic commander is to protect my people from their physical safety, but also their civil liability. I don't want them involved in illegal arrests. I thought the OPP role on the initial convoy arrival in Ottawa went very smoothly. We had minor issues in our smaller communities with members not obeying the mask mandates. We had some restaurants who just choose to ignore the mandates altogether, but overall we had no assaults, we had no criminality, wasn't aware of any charges being laid. They said what they would do. They kept to one lane. They entered the city of Ottawa in an orderly fashion. We had minor issues with supporters on the roadside on the 417 getting kind of dangerously close to the side of the highway, which was a concern, but that wasn't convoy. The convoy participants couldn't control that. They did what they said they would do. And they didn't damage any highways. They didn't cause any criminality. So from that perspective, it was a success in getting them into the city of Ottawa. From an OPP, that was our mission. That was our goal for that period of time, to have the convoy come through OPP policed areas without a blockage of a highway, without assaults or damage and injury to the public. And we were successful in all those areas.
Okay. And based on your participation in this call, what did it appear, how long of an event did it appear that the OPS was planning for?
The weekend at the most.
Okay. And was that consistent with what you understood at the time?
Sorry, consistent in what context?
Did you also believe it would be a weekend-long event? Yes,
because I was relying that Ottawa Police believed it would be a weekend event, so who was I to question that it wasn't going to be? If they believed it, I believed it, and we were partners in it. And as much as Hendon did say those other things, I had to take some faith in Ottawa had the plan, and that we would be done on Sunday evening, maybe Monday morning at the latest.
Well, you've anticipated my question because Superintendent Morris was very clear yesterday that the Hendon reports in the week leading up used the word long-term and sort of made it clear that protesters would be staying. So I guess I'm wondering if you were reading them, why you weren't left with that impression as well.
There was more Hendon report, there was more intel that indicated they were staying longer than staying shorter, for sure, there was. And I just had to assume that Ottawa had a capacity to manage what may have been a longer term event, that there must have been a plan B, let's say, for lack of a better word, that, yeah, if these people do stay after Monday, then we pull out plan B and we activate plan B. Those were just assumptions I was making, that because we all knew and we all had access to those Hendon reports, we knew that possibility could be longer, that there must be a contingency plan in place if Monday's still locked up.
Right. Was there discussion of that contingency plan or Plan B on this intersect call?
There was not.